Welcome back to Winning on Taxes. And what we're talking about today is payment compliance. How to get off that hamster wheel, not owe the IRS every single year moving forward, and make sure that you're going to be on a path forward for success, long term success. So there are plenty of people that play games short term with the IRS. Why are you paying an attorney all this money just to play around and not actually solve the situation? If you get good advice, good representatives will give you good advice on how to quit the games, get off the hamster wheel, and find that peace of mind. So we talked about yearly taxes because that's what most people do, 1040 personal income taxes. It's always better to start sometime because if you always have the excuse, I'll do it next year, and then it doesn't happen, you usually get fired as a bad client. I actually had one client that they kept asking me, why isn't our case done? I said, well, you keep owing every year. And you're still, it was just so frustrating me. I had to have a come to Jesus moment with them. I was like, look, you keep owing, we're going to have to fire you as clients because we can't help you. You have to get on track. You have to get straight with the IRS. And then we can do all kinds of things for you. And the main reason for that is if you submit an offer in compromise right now to do your fresh start program, whatever, to settle your tax debt, they will kick it right back at you. And oftentimes, even if you are current on your payments moving forward, you have to prove that up. They want to see proof. They want to know that you're not going to be right back to square one. And for an offer in compromise, if you owe in the next 5 years, you're going to default the whole thing. So if you owe and you just pay it off, not a big deal. But if you owe and it's too much and you can't pay it off, you're going to default the whole thing, be right back to square one, and you're going to owe all of those taxes again. It's really sad to see that. I've seen it happen too many times. So best time to start is always the beginning of the year. But if you're halfway through the year, it's better to just build that habit, start paying those taxes, get on top of it. And the IRS cares more that you're not going to owe in the current year or tax period than all the back years. And when you call them in, they're not going to tell you that. They're going to tell you that you have to pay all these other periods. But what they won't tell you is that they're not going to give you anything unless you can show that you're not going to owe moving forward. And if you default too many installment agreements or too many agreements, you can lose out on the opportunity to ask for more. And that's kind of extreme. But if you're constantly owing every single year, they can tell you eventually, no more deals for you. You've shown abuse stress so much, you're out of luck. And that's very scary. So how do you make sure you're not going to owe if you're W-2? Change your withholdings. It's always better to have a little bit of a refund than to owe too much at the end of the year where you can't pay it. And a lot of things have changed where you're going to get penalized if you're not withholding enough as well. And we're going to touch on that as well. If you are self-employed or 1099 or you have a side gig where you're not having taxes withheld, you need to talk about estimated tax payments. And the funny thing is that most CPAs and tax preparers, when they do a tax return, they'll include vouchers that tell you roughly how much you should pay. But it's all usually based on the past year, not what's happening moving forward. So that's why it's always good to talk to your CPA, make sure you're connected with them. And too many CPAs don't explain that to them. It's like, here's the vouchers. It tells you how much to pay based on the prior year. But if your situation changes moving forward, can you pay less? Should you pay more if you make more? The answer is yes. You just have to document it. So what happens at the end of the year if you owe, if you didn't have sufficient withholdings? You're not taking enough taxes out in the year or paying enough taxes in throughout the year. First of all, Congress, in their great wisdom, sarcasm, and this was bipartisan, so both parties are at fault here, they raised the interest rate from 3% to 8%. They did it in November of 2023. So tax year 24 is going to be the first year that people are going to be smacked with an 8% penalty for everything they owe and didn't pay throughout the year. So that means you could have a tax bill of $10,000, pay it by April 15th. You're still going to get hit with the penalty of $800 on top of everything else. Why? Because the law is that you have to pay throughout the year. You're supposed to pay throughout the year. And if you don't, you're going to get with that penalty. Another reason to pay throughout the year, it builds that expense into your monthly budget throughout the year. You'll get full credit for it, and it will count as an allowable expense to get you a better deal with the IRS and state taxes. And we're going to wrap this up in this last section after the commercial break coming up next.